To help us look back and assess this latest inter-Korean summit, we have with us Professor Se-ryun from Pyeongyang University. Thank you for making the time to come to the show today.
Good to be here.
Professor Song, you were with us throughout the 3 days of the summit, and you were even there with us when they signed this new Pyeongyang Joint Declaration and when it was announced.
Right.
Now that we've had a day or so to digest it, what is your overall assessment of the agreement and the summits over the past 3 days? And also, do you think President Moon will have been satisfied with this agreement as well?
I think that this summit was a success. But I have to add that this was a success within the confines of what President Moon and also Chairman Kim set out to accomplish, which is they had 3 probably stated goals, but another one big overall hidden goals. Not so hidden, I guess. One was strengthening Korea ties, and optics-wise, it was as a great show of affections all around. Easing the military tension. We have the agreement that addresses a lot of skirmish possibilities along the borders especially, and I think that we can check it off. The third part was the most important one, which was a denuke part, denuclearization. We were looking for specificity, we were looking for specific actions. On that one, on the languages of it, at first, I was disappointed. I think everybody was somewhat disappointed. But then it was followed by Twitter from Trump, which led us believe that he has somewhat more information that we do not have. Or there is a shared understanding that those specific parts of it, which goes to the meat of this whole process, will be resolved if the Washington meeting happens with President Kim and President Trump and Chairman Kim. And it seems like it's happening. So overall, that can kind of point to the scorecard, which is a resounding success. Now, for President Moon, his role was a mediator role. And he was the one who would make the understandings of each party is possible to get to Washington, and apparently he's done that.
You talked about some of the background negotiations that could have been happening, but for now let's look at what was actually written on the paper. So in the section about denuclearization, which of course has been received the most focus in the last couple of days, it says North Korea has agreed to dismantle its Dongchangli missile test site and in front of international inspectors as well. But then it adds that it is willing to take further steps towards denuclearization, but only if the US takes corresponding measures. Now, those 2 words, corresponding measures, has really caught everyone's attention, because it makes it sound like now you've asked us for certain things, but now we're giving you Dongchangli missile test site. Now it's up to you, the US, to give something back in return. Do you think, though, the North Korea has taken enough steps for the US to say, actually, okay, we'll give you something in return?
Well, that's a difficult question. The easy answer, first of all, is that that's so typical of North Korean tactics, which they call as salami tactics. They're dividing many different steps, getting to the ultimate goal of denuclearization, and along the way is trying to get some kind of concessions, some kind of gift in return. Probably what they're talking about is a peace treaty or some sort of commitment to the end of the war declaration. If it's not outright declaration, some sort of serious commitment towards that. And probably you will be talking about some kind of economic packages, including the lifting of the sanctions along the way. So I think there is certainly a playbook in North Korea's side. Try to get what they want by securing a lot of chips. If they don't have enough chips, then they are willing to divide those chips into smaller chunks so that they can do the barter game.
So many analysts have also pointed out they've offered Dongchangli, and they've even specifically mentioned the Yongbyon nuclear facilities. And actually, if you look at the bigger picture, some people are saying it's actually not that much, because they've not promised to hand over any nuclear weapons, which the US has supposedly asked for as well, or at least a list of the nuclear weapons that they do have and the facilities that they do have as well. So this is what the US has been demanding. Do you think that North Korea is basically, this is just still a negotiation tactic, that they're holding back, and that they can be something that can be negotiated further, especially, for example, when Kim and Trump meet for a second summit, per se?
Right, absolutely right. If North Korea does everything they do, so far what they've been saying is tantamount to arms reduction, not the denuclearization or in any way complete, right? So without the inventory of what they have in the stockpile and all the sites and facilities that are related to the nuclear development, and according inspections, and also the kind of the materials that they have, the fissile materials that they have for making the nuclear weapons, without those, we're not getting there in any ways. But that's where the President Trump's Twitter comes in. He talks about the inspection, IAEA inspection, which you cannot find any language in there. So that leads us to kind of believe that there are side agreement or some informations that have not been made public yet that goes to other matters that are statedly very important to U.S. U.S. talked about the inventory and the inspections all along. So I think that will come up soon, and probably there were some either negotiations or the agreement in place.
Interestingly, the State Department did give a reply to that quote about the IAEA and U.S. inspectors, saying that's just a given. That's, you know, that's natural for this for that to be assumed that these are the people who would be inspecting it. But I think that's perhaps taking a leap far anyway. But if we go back to as well that U.S. State Department spokesperson, they also said on Thursday that they've been very strong. They said denuclearization has to come first. But Trump, on the other hand, has said, you know, he's welcomed this new agreement as well. So where does the U.S. position lie at the moment? Do you think the U.S. will try to stick with its hardline stance, or do you think they are actually more open to renegotiation and some sort of wiggle room and movement?
Well, that's another difficult question. Probably if we stick to the gun that they have, the U.S. will go back to the CVID and probably try to check off all the items there. But I think the North knows, and also I think everybody assumes that the desire for Donald Trump to declare a victory on this issue is so great that he's amenable to get something less than that if he can claim that the commitment that the North Korea made is sufficient and we're going down that road. Remember that Donald Trump was talking about Russia and the interference, and at some point his answer was, well, President Putin said he didn't do it and he seemed serious about it, and I believe it. Probably unlikely to that degree, but I think that Donald Trump has been pushing for the commitment both sides made between the leaders. And at times it seems like that's enough for him at that point. So probably it's not unthinkable that we come to an agreement which does not satisfy all the conditions that U.S. had, but at the same time has a significant inroads into that direction.
Perhaps what was not included in the declaration at this point, perhaps more important, President Moon has hinted that he has a different message, or a message from Kim Jong-un that he's going to deliver to Donald Trump when they meet next week in New York for the UN General Assembly. So in this message, could it be that Kim Jong-un has stated what he wants the US measures to be, so that North Korea and he decides to take further steps for denuclearization?
Well, I think so. Without that, probably on the surface of it, it doesn't seem like a good agreement so far. And the Twitter, and President Trump also mentioned a letter he got, and we're kind of not sure whether the letter was already known, or is there another letter that specifies his commitment and other items. So in that sense, I think that there are definitely some other items and the messages that the President Moon is taking to Washington, And probably those probably is a good foundation for the meeting that Donald Trump and Chairman Kim will be having. And whatever the announcement they will have, whatever the victory that President Trump will claim, will substantially come from that understanding.
So what is that next step then? For example, so President Moon will now go to the US, he'll meet with Donald Trump, deliver Kim's message. What comes out of this, US-South Korea meeting that happens next week? What do you think will be announced there?
Well, the remaining task as a mediator for President Moon is go over there and relay what has happened here, and including the hidden messages or other understandings, so that the next meeting with the President Trump and the Chairman Kim will take place. I think that would be the extent of his goal at this point. And along with that would be the agenda that will be set during that meeting. But in that sense, the foundation is already there. But of course, the ultimate question of, is North Korea really serious about complete denuclearization? That's still remaining, and I think the skeptics and the critics have not really given up on the stance, original stance, that North Korea will never do that. But I think that at the same time, there are a lot of people kind of changing their position at this point, saying that, well, maybe, because the North Korea has completed their armament program, and in exchange for the position, probably they want something big in return in terms of economic packages. If they secure that, not only from the United States, South Korea, and the regional development-wise, probably it's worth it.
I would say it's, some people think, you know, these declarations are the end, but I feel like this is just one small step towards a far longer negotiation that's happening here in this process. In that same vein, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has invited the North Korean his counterpart, Ri Yong-ho, to meet in New York as well. Mm-hmm. And there'll also be this chance for the South Korean Foreign Minister, Kang Kyung to be there as well. There could possibly be further negotiations here as well. I mean, do you think there could be some sort of interaction, three-way interaction there in New York as well?
Definitely so. And I think you're right. This is a process, a small process in the long line of process. I think that whole process might have started from Chairman Kim Jong-un's grandfather. This development of nuclear program, and that's why I talk about this elusive playbook that North Korea has. On that point, the progress we make at this point should not depend on the personalities or spur-of-the-moment political wind. It has to be institutionalized, and the meeting with the foreign ministers should be institutionalized, and not just one-off meetings, but as regular meetings with the agenda, with the goal towards the denuclearization, or if not, acceptable arrangement of inspection, so that the nuclear threat will be reduced in a permanent basis. Mm.
Yes, we'll look forward to those meetings in New York next week, and hopefully we can get you back to get your thoughts on it again as well. It's good to have you with us, and thank you for the last few days and helping us shed more light on everything that's been going on.
My pleasure. Thank you.